Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are on this wacky planet. Fast forward place, still wrapped in a pandemic, sadly. And we try to do the best we can here at the Earth Institute. This is Columbia University Earth Institute's Sustain What webcast. I'm Andy Revkin. And on Sundays, we switch from serious, fairly intense discussions of how we communicate better in a changing climate and amid an infodemic around a pandemic and stuff like that. And on Sundays, we kick back and we focus on music. Today's is kind of a special one. We're focusing on music of this sphere, in a sense. Some musicians who happen to be climate scientists and earth scientists and energy analysts are going to be on. So this is a session, and also some great guests from the music world, Dar Williams and Tom Chapin, the climate-focused comedian. Chuck Nice will be with us, and we're going to explore that intersection of music, art, and climate progress and human progress. I'm going to start by playing. Actually, you know what? I've already screwed up. It's too early in the morning, of course, so I'm going to go here and say hi to a couple of our guests. Here's Karen Alley, who is a glaciologist who recently moved to the University of Manitoba, and Ray Pierrehumbert, who had been at the University of Chicago for a long time. I would assume you were at Chicago for a couple of decades at least, Ray?
Oh, 25 years. 25 years, yep.
Right, and now is at Oxford, over on the other side of the Atlantic. Great to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
And thank you. How are things over in Oxford? We're kind of girding for the first wintry week here in the Hudson Valley.
Oh, it's fairly warm today, but it's gray and rainy. We had a beautiful clear night last night. You could see the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter nicely from our balcony. But today it's really gray and rainy, which is too bad because we have this socially distanced neighborhood carol sing. In fact, the BBC broadcasts some carols, and then we all sing along from doorsteps and balconies and stuff like that. But it looks like, except for those of us with places to do it undercover, we're going to be rained out today. But
hey, Ray, there's a little bit of static now from your end. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, so I'm going to ask you to try to come out and back in again. But we got yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on. And now David Grinspoon, astrobiologist extraordinaire, writer of wonderful books, a couple of which are on my shelves back here, has joined us as well with Karen Alley. And Karen's father, Richard Alley, will be with us soon as well, and Ray will be back. David, how are you?
Well, I'm doing okay, considering the caveats one has to put in these days. But
and you're in DC, right? So you were there for all this ruckus.
I'm far enough away from downtown so that I hear about it on the news, just like you, unless I decide to go down and punish myself by being in it. But yes, I am in the belly of the beast.
And what you've described, of course, is that things often are much more isolated and constrained than what you see on social media or even in the news, where they focus on the worst of what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny because people say, you're in Washington, it must be awful with all that. And I'm like, well, I walk outside and people are working on their gardens, like everywhere else. But yeah, there's some weird stuff going on that you can find out about without too much difficulty.
And how are things in Manitoba? Karen, you're settling in there?
Yeah, it's great so far. It's weird because we moved here in August. We started a new position and we've never been on campus. So it's a little bit of a strange way to start a new job.
That's wild. Yeah, that's really weird to move to a new job and not actually be there.
Yeah, no, but it turns out Winnipeg's just an absolutely beautiful city. We woke up to a really nice snowfall this morning, so it's a good place to be.
On the way.
It is very strange that the nature of what it means to be somewhere has shifted. I'm a visiting professor this year at Wesleyan. I've been there for a semester, and I'm teaching a class there next semester, but I haven't actually been there. So I'm visiting in my mind or on the internet or something.
So let's get some music rolling here. That's the idea, and I think I'd love to hear. Well, David, this is your you're in this opening half hour with Ray. So what do you got in mind?
Well, I actually, my idea was to play the Funky Science Story Hour theme song, which is actually the most recent decent song that I've written. And what it is since the start of the pandemic shutdowns, I started doing a weekly science stream for kids that I've been calling Funky Science Story Hour. And I thought I would just do it a few times, and then it kind of morphed into a weekly thing. And I've got people that show up regularly and ask questions, and we have fun. We do songs and science and stuff. And I wrote a theme song for it that I think is kind of catchy, and it maybe makes a good intro for a show like this. So if you're open to it, I'll play you the Funky Science Story Hour theme song.
Sounds great to me.
All right. Let's see. Is my guitar level okay in this thing?
Sounds good, yeah.
Okay, cool. Gather around, my children, pull up a chair, my friends. Let's all get together for the story that never ends. How do we get here? What's inside your head? What's bluer than blue? What's redder than red? Gather around, my people, all children young and old. Pull up a seat, put up your feet for the greatest story ever told. Funky Science Story Hour, 'cause science is knowledge and knowledge is power, 'cause the world is so weird and weirdness is fun. And there's so much to learn, and we've all just begun. Oh, we can learn together. We can understand the weather. We can imagine ourselves in any place. We can see the earth from outer space. How? Oh, with science. Funky, funky science. Whoa, funky, 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 funky science. Yeah, funky, funky, funky science, yeah. Oh, we can learn together. We can understand the weather. We can imagine ourselves in any place. We can see the earth from outer space. How? Oh, with science. Funky, funky science. Whoa, funky, 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 funky science. Whoa, funky, funky, funky science, yeah. Whoa, Funky Science Story Hour, 'cause science is knowledge and knowledge is power, 'cause the world is so weird and weirdness is fun. And there's so much to learn, and we've all just begun. Ah, science. Yeah, yeah, funky, funky science. Oh, funky, 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 funky science. Funky, funky, funky science, yeah.
Woo! Well, that's a good morning song.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's
really good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's my Funky Science Story Hour theme song, and it's they're doing a few variations of it, but it does. I don't know. People keep coming back every week, like maybe 6 or 7, but still, I got an audience, so that's cool.
What's the easiest way for people to find you?
Yeah, I'll send you a link, but there's a Funky Science Story Hour Facebook page that usually has the latest. It's usually Thursday afternoons, unless I'm busy that week.
That's so awesome. I love that idea that weirdness is cool. We don't understand it all. And actually, we still don't understand some of the big things, so like all dark matter and how hot is it going to get on this planet, and what's going to happen with human connectedness. The things we don't know still seem to outnumber often the things we do. So weirdness is cool. It's okay.
And I love, when you're teaching kids to talk about everything we don't know, and it's not just like, here's what we know, kids. It's like, here's everything we don't know and how we're going to try to find out.
Yeah. So I noticed that Chuck Nice is in the house. Good morning.
How are you?
Is this a hard hour for you? Or are you already up and running usually early?
I never sleep, Andy.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, I just never go to sleep ever. I'm up and I'm concerned with the ills of the world at all times, and trying to find a way to write jokes about them. So that's
thank
my
God for that, because I've been really enjoying your humor spilling out onto Twitter and elsewhere lately.
Oh, thanks.
But we need that, just like we need this. We need arts and hearts and laughter.
This was super cool. I mean, I have some coffee here, but it wasn't necessary because I tuned in, and my man Dr. Funky Spoon was like a double shot of espresso early in the morning. I don't need my coffee now, man. It's like, what's up, Dr. Funky Spoon?
And the thing is, I suspect Chuck doesn't sleep because he's actually an android. So,
well, right, there was that whole thing that was on Twitter and elsewhere the other day that the Israeli official who said that aliens have been in touch with the U.S. and Israel now for years, and it's just been a big secret. And when I tweeted about it, what do they call it? There was a name for it. There was like this organization. And the organization replied on Twitter. That was really disturbing to me. There's a Twitter account already for this alien grand whatever it is.
Yeah, and the guy that came out with that big revelation, he also has a book coming out. What do you know?
Oh, really?
Written by aliens, by the way. The aliens are his ghostwriter. That's the whole catch that nobody talked about. Yeah.
Oh my God.
The thing that gave it away for me was that he said that they were in touch with the Galactic Federation, and I thought, man, that's a pretty unimaginative title.
Exactly. Yeah, that really is. I mean, seriously. I mean, you couldn't even go that's a little too close to United Federation of Planets to go with Galactic Federation. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. And he said Donald Trump knows about the whole thing. And I'm like, Donald Trump is the alien. What are you talking about? So,
Yeah, underneath that weird hair, there's something going on.
Well, there you go. That now things are actually, I'm starting to become a believer.
Wow.
Once you mention the hair, I'm like, the answers are out there.
Yeah, it reminds me of.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the Doctor Who series about the Valine. The Valine are these reptilian aliens that have these suits that make them look like humans.
Yeah,
and they all run for parliament and they win. Probably a story.
So Ray, you have your accordion all hooked up there.
I was just getting my wires all in the right place so that I don't get tangled up in them. I can play in any order. So
well, I'd love to hear. Let's hear from Karen. Karen, the only thing that would be equally energetic to David's "Good Morning Wake Up Call" song would be some hammered dulcimer. It was great to have you on here earlier. For anyone who doesn't know, Karen Alley, besides being a glaciologist who's moved to the faculty at University of Manitoba, was 3 or 4 years ago the U.S. national champion at this extraordinary instrument. Hooray, hooray.
Yeah.
Well, time
it's
does
more like
go
6
on,
years ago now. But
if you could give a little morning wake-up call dose of hammered dulcimer, that would be super awesome.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't typically do much singing. Usually I leave.
He'll be on shortly. I see him in the green room.
Later here.
He's got the eggnog.
Perfect. Yeah. So I usually do the singing day. There we go. I don't have a lot of science content here, but yeah. So for those of you who don't know this instrument, because many people don't, this is a hammered dulcimer, and I kind of pick it up, but it's kind of huge. So this is the insides of a piano that I'm playing basically here with the hammers in my hand. So I'll play you an original that I wrote called "Into Open Air." Should ask, does that sound okay?
Yeah.
You never know that there's a big range on this instrument. Good across?
Sounds great.
Good. Into open air.
Wow.
Thanks.
Wow, that was
That did the
that
trick.
was great. Oh my
Thank
God,
you.
Karen, I am absolutely enthralled with this hammered dulcimer now, man. I mean, I'm first of all, how does this even happen? How do you get to that right there? Because serious, is it only a scientist? I'm serious, only a scientist. It's just like, sweetie, we want you to take piano lessons. Mom, that's way too easy. I'm sorry, but I have to play the hammered dulcimer. Like,
Well,
It
guess
turned
what?
out- I gotta give a lot of credit to the guy who just showed up there. That's my dad.
I did just pop. I popped Richard Alley, her father, into the box. Yeah.
Richard, how do you end up with a daughter who is not only brilliant, musically talented, but then decides to play one of the most esoteric musical instruments on earth?
Richard, you are muted.
Mute.
He's speechless.
Give her a big smile and get out of the way. And
There you go.
A lot of help from my wife. Yes.
Wow.
That's so what I'm sorry guys, but I am blown away. And like, first of all, everybody here is a musician, okay? Because I mean I've seen Andy play, and Dr. Funky Spoon has been on the air with us and played on the air. I see Ray with his accordion there. Karen just gave us a great mini concert. And I'm telling you guys, I had to get in on the action. So here we go.
All
That's all
right.
I'm saying. I had to get on the action. I went and got my spoons. So
Yeah.
no, I'm joking. This is for coffee.
Yes.
It's just for. How did this happen, though, Karen? Seriously, I'm totally taken.
Yeah, well, this is a really good case for music education. I was very lucky to have parents who started me on music very, very young. I started taking piano lessons when I was 4. I played flute all the way through school. I took lessons on oboe and guitar and things like that. Took until high school. My sister played the fiddle, and being the younger sister, I wanted to play the fiddle. So I started playing fiddle, and my parents took us to a folk festival. And I saw a really phenomenal dulcimer player named Mark Wade play Flight of the Bumblebee on a hammered dulcimer. And I said, I need one of those. And so I think it took about a year of convincing my parents that I promise I'll really play this instrument if you get me this one too. And they did. And I finally found my instrument. So
yeah, that's so cool. I got to tell you something. While you were talking, I put purchase hammered dulcimer into Google, and it came back, are you serious? So
Google knows you too well.
There is something to be said for playing an instrument that nobody's heard of before. It makes you go, but it's a bigger community than you'd think. There's actually a really, really, really vibrant dulcimer community.
Oh, I'm sure. Believe me. All right. Yes. I mean, listen, you're talking to a black man who loves bluegrass. So believe me, when you're looking at communities, believe me, I know that there are communities out there that people don't know about.
Wow.
Well, that was fantastic. Wow. Thanks.
Yeah.
Ah.
So now you're going to hear a planetary physics genius playing the accordion. Ray from the University of Chicago and now Oxford University, the Halley Professor of Physics, no less, as in Edmund Halley, as in comet discoverer. What a luminous title that is. And Ray's been on here. He's played Finnish, like these Finnish songs and Swedish songs and maypole dancing songs. And what do you got this morning, man?
Yeah, so it's I have some Swedish Christmas music, Julmusik, the Yule season. In fact, today is Lucia Day. It's one of the most beautiful Swedish holidays, December 13th, and it started out actually as an old pagan tradition. Lucia was actually a troll, a female troll who would walk on the darkest night of the year. And if you were out and about, you risked being spirited away. But then it somehow at some point got merged in with Saint Lucy, Saint Lucia, a Sicilian martyr in Christian times. And then in the 19th century cultural revival, nationalist revival in Sweden, they developed all these really wonderful customs. In particular, the oldest girl in the house wakes everybody up with a tray of special saffron buns. I actually have one here. We don't have it. we don't have an oldest daughter living at home anymore. They're all back in the U.S. But I made the saffron buns anyway, and I put on my bathrobe and I played the role. And the Lucia, where I didn't wear my Lucia crown.
I hope there are no pictures.
Yeah, there's a crown of candles. In Sweden, it's often done with real candles, but you can get battery operated ones so that the kids can do it. So, but anyway, I mean the song I'm going to play first, and then if the time looks okay, I'll tack on the official Lucia morning song that we wake people up with. The song I'm going to play is called Kop Ången. It's a modern Christmas song written by Kalle Moraeus, who's a folk musician, a fiddler from Orsa. And it might be interesting. There's a whole hotbed of folk music in Orsa, in Dalarna. And in fact, you may not know Benny Andersson, who's one of the
I honestly don't.
Benny Andersson, who's one of the two Bs in ABBA. You probably know about ABBA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he's one of the two Bs in ABBA. So he started life as a folk musician. And when he retired from ABBA, he went back to Orsa and organizes folk music festivals and plays folk music. And he's a wonderful folk musician. And he and Kalle Moraeus have played a lot of things together. But this song Kop Ången, which is named after a wetlands up in Dalarna. Ång means steam. In the winter time, there's this beautiful mist of steam coming off, and the wetlands get covered with snow. When the moon comes out, it's an amazing quality of light with the steam coming up. And the song tells the story of coming by the little church in Christmas time that's on the edge of Kop Ången, and seeing the light and hearing the psalms from the church distantly as you're going past on your skis. And it's a lovely song. So here we go. So.
I like it. So that second tune was very familiar. I realized it was.
Oh yeah,
kind of a classic.
it's the Neapolitan. It's the Neapolitan tune with words rewritten for Lucia.
And I might as well say hello to some other guests who are coming on shortly or now. Actually, there's Tom Chapin,
Good morning.
singer extraordinaire, the fixture here in the Hudson Valley, and a friend and an inspiration to so many. And you've been hunkered with your family for months with your daughters playing sessions. Was it every day for a while? I can't remember.
It was every school day. Now it's
Wow.
3 days a week. We decided to have a longer weekend. It's called Papa Tom Chapin and the Chapin Sisters. Mornings with Papa Tom Chapin and the Chapin Sisters. And we've done 147 shows.
Holy mackerel.
We
That's
started
actually
the first week of let's see, we started on St. Patty's Day, March 17th.
wow.
And do a half an hour of family music every day. My daughter, Abigail, came up from Brooklyn with her 4-year-old and her husband. And Lily's up here with her 4-year-old. And they said to me, all our friends are really freaking out about having to take care of the kids for 24 hours all of a sudden
Right.
with no school. And you know what we ought to do? And I said, what? She said, we ought to do a half-hour show. And Dad, you're the right tool for this job.
Because you just turn you on and you just folk music comes out.
I have 13 family recordings, and part of this has been interesting is going through those songs and songs I don't perform much. You tend to, as you do live concerts, to get sort of a small songs that always work. With a lot of energy and stuff. And pulling out some of the old ones has been really fun. And the girls know them because they sang in all the recordings. And then now they have 4-year-olds, so they play the recordings in the car. So it's been great. It's about the best it could possibly be for those of us who are in this situation.
That's fantastic. I started this show in March 15th. It was on a Sunday. And it just was kind of a spontaneous thing. I just said, someone has to get into the mix and hold the conversations that can keep us together and
so glad you're doing it.
So it's a nice, and you have the music going, and you look around. I know people including Chuck, have done a lot of comedy and gotten people the spirits up, and at the same time conveying the importance of what's going on too. So it's great to see you out there. And I saw Dar Williams poke into the green room a second ago, which she'll probably be back in a second. So let's. I'd love to hear one or two more from those who came on in that early section, because we just got started a little late, and then we'll cycle on to you folks. And Chuck, if you have something else to say about where we're at right now with the pandemic and the climate-demic, feel free. I know you have your It's real project. You are muted. There you go.
Sorry, this is my first time doing anything on a Zoom-like forum. So,
Right.
Yeah. I spent the last 7 months just with a bullhorn out of my window. That's how I chose to communicate as opposed to electronically over the interwebs. But I will say that first of all, it's just great. Being a huge fan of science and looking at this screen right now, I think it's just important to realize the significance of, I will say, creative thinking. Creative thinking has such an incredible significance to our existence. And I don't think it's any coincidence that so many of the scientists that I know are also musicians. I don't know, maybe you guys can speak to like how that happens, but I don't find it to be any coincidence because I find that scientists are great creative thinkers. And I also see a parallel because a lot of comedians are secretly musicians. Really a lot. You'd be really surprised. And, I myself, who have studied music for quite some time, but just don't play anymore because, sometimes you just got to recognize that you suck. But what is it? What is that correlation?
I got ideas. So first of all, Chuck, the reason I'm not an actor is because I learned that I sucked. So I'm with you on that. I also am enough of a scientist and enough of a nerd to know what your T-shirt means.
Oh, sweet, my man.
Yeah, exactly. Black Lantern, my friend.
That's what it is. That's exactly right.
And by the way, I forgot to introduce you, Julio Friedman, who's at the Center for Global Energy Policy, a longtime researcher at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, calling in very early from California. Great to have you here too.
My pleasure. Thank you. To Mr. Nice's question, two things come to mind, and as somebody who trained as a composer and am now a full-time scientist, I think I have some perspective. Part of it is the discipline. You got to sit down and practice 6 hours a day. The same people who can solve equations 4 hours a day. Like, there's something about the discipline of it. The same thing in comedy. You know how hard comedians work with the rigor, the discipline, the practice. That temperament is part of it. But the other part of it is what Wordsworth said: beauty is truth and truth is beauty. And something about musicians and artists and scientists are outside of what most people do. They seek a completely different goal in life about understanding aspects of the human condition in the world. And those temperaments, I think, season the way that you enter the world.
I think maybe it has something to do with the corpus callosum too, which is that bundle of nerves in our brain connecting the two hemispheres.
Wow, total killjoy, but that's actually true. No, it's been proven that people who study music at an early age have more cerebral interconnections between the two lobes. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and actually, this connection between mathematics and music goes back all the way to some of the earliest things. So Pythagoras really developed the current notion of pitch and musical pitch by looking at the sound of different lengths of strings. But the funny thing is, so the scale that we use now is based on the ugly 12th root of 2, but the Greek music was based on fifths that were in 2 to 3 ratios. Perfect fifths, which actually sound extremely beautiful. And I just found that, in fact, the TRAPPIST-1 planetary system, the orbital periods are in exact Pythagorean fifths. So, I mean, it was known that they were in resonance, but I hadn't realized that, in fact, that system is literally music of the spheres.
That'd be so cool to actually
Pythagorean fifths.
So, Ray, is there a way to take that and chart it as a musical score?
Oh, people have done that. Yeah, you can find you can actually find the sound that the Trappist system would make if it were played. So that's out there on the web.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's get a little more music into the mix. I do see Dar Williams here. Hello, Dar.
Hello. I was just making sure I got all my settings straight. Are you? Can you hear me?
I know. I do. I do hear some kind of weird background noise. I'm not sure from where. I don't think it's you.
I don't think it's me.
Anyway, it's gone.
I kicked the kids
Someone
out.
just muted.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So thank you, Dar, for being here. And Tom, I'd love to hear, Karen, before we move forward into the next section here, can you give us one more dose of hammered dulcimer to keep our spirits and our energy like juiced up?
Yeah, sure. I do just have to say, Tom Chapin, I grew up listening to your stuff, and also John McCutcheon's music.
Oh, yeah.
is where a lot of this stuff. So thank you. That certainly has mattered to me. So I got out this instrument. There's kind of dulcimer scattered all over the room, and I was playing last time I was playing a smaller one. And I got this one out because I mean, it's just the deep notes on this big one are just so lovely. And so I wanted to make use of that a little bit. And if it's okay with you all, since Ray did it, I'd love to play you a Christmas tune. We woke up to snow falling. It's really, really gorgeous out right now. And we're about to go do a family Zoom call with Christmas cookie decorating. So if it's okay to venture into the holidays,
totally.
I'll play you a Christmas song here. All right, cool.
Wow. Wow.
So not as scientific, but this is, when you get the right instrument out, it's what you want to play. So
That's just spectacular. So I would love to hear some of Julio Friedman's piano coming off of that, but I got to get your father in here too. I can see him beaming brighter than the lights on the tree behind him. And Richard Alley, you're a fabulous musician in your own right, a very different vibe than we just heard. You're a great. You always inject humor into your songs. Your song about the Pacific Rim of Fire, building on Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire, is just. You did that online. I think it's got 100,000 views on YouTube. That's pretty awesome. So, what comes to mind today for you musically?
Yeah. So it's great to see you all. I've got one that Karen reminded me of. I wrote this for a Christmas present in 2003. So it's a few years ago. We love Cape Cod. We love nature. We love science. And so I'm going to try to share my screen. And we'll share the screen here. And we're going to share the entire screen.
So that I'll see it and then I can maximize it. I don't see it yet.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it hasn't worked yet. This is interesting. Application window. Okay, so now we're sharing something. Film has lost position. Okay. We're going to try again. You could share the screen.
He never gave us Christmas presents that he bought. He always wrote us a song for Christmas. So
I know.
A very scientifically appropriate Christmas song. Yeah.
So I am hoping we're getting to the point that you're seeing a PowerPoint. By any chance,
you know what I'll suggest? If you don't mind coming, logging out and coming back in, and see if that fixes it. Is that okay?
Okay.
Or I could. There you go. We'll see if he can fix that. All the goddamn technical.
So, Karen, now that your father's gone, how did you feel about getting songs instead of toys?
It was good. I think when I was really young, there was probably times that it wasn't as exciting. But I tell you, he's recorded a lot of those songs for us, and I go back and listen to those. You can't ask for anything better. So, yeah.
I have to remember that the next time I forget.
That's pretty amazing,
right? It's not yet enabled, Andy.
Oh, that's frustrating. I'm sorry about the.
Try one more thing.
Different.
Okay. So what we're going to do then is I'll switch songs on you, because this one doesn't need the words as much. So this is Johnny Cash, right? So we'll do that one if this comes through. And I did have slides, but at any rate, this is. We teach a 1,200 student online class to people all over the world and 23 campuses of Penn State. We review the class to classic rock songs. So this one is, that Johnny Cash went down in a ring of fire. That the ring of fire is the volcanoes around the Pacific. So that's this one, right?
Awesome.
Subduction is a burning thing. It feeds a fiery ring. Cold, dense ocean floor will soon retire down through the mantle for a ring of fire. Subduction scrapes off mud round a burning ring of fire. It takes water down, it drives the volcanoes higher. It makes light into sight. And a ring of fire, a ring of fire. Basalt is born calm and dark at a spreading ridge or Hawaii's hotspot park. Dangerous stratovolcanoes fountain higher when fed by subduction at a ring of fire. Subduction scrapes off mud around a burning ring of fire. It takes water down, drives those volcanoes higher. It makes light and decide from a ring of fire. a ring of fire. Great earthquakes from the moving load. Stick slip and plates just might implode. Eruptions, landslides, we require. Tsunami warnings from the ring of fire. Subduction scrapes off mud round a burning ring of fire. It takes water down, drives those volcanoes higher. It makes fight and decide. And a ring of fire, a ring of fire. St. Helens blew high, others blow higher. Going on fear, the ring of fire, the ring of fire, the ring of fire.
Yes.
A little silliness for a Sunday morning.
No. I love it. I'll tell you, having written about some of the aspects of that ring of fire, the Cascadia fault, the Tambora back in the 1800s. I wasn't there, of course, but I've written about it since it happened. And it's such a powerful feature of the Earth system.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that was so good. I now have to go back and rework all my jokes about the lithosphere. So that's it, man.
Wow.
Yeah, Chuck, you just need to get yourself in the Benioff zone there, and you'll be fine.
Hey, we've got one. There's one online, and that Karen plays the flute for us, and we do the abduction zone, peaceful, easy abduction. We'll do it for you someday.
Nice.
So Julio, in capturing all that carbon, can't we just sort of stuff it into that subduction zone and then let it just go back into the deep Earth?
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong, right?
Shoot.
Yeah, when you add CO2 to volcanoes, they blow up bigger. Like maybe not the thing we're looking at. There's this idea that there's like a 20 million year lag time between putting CO2 in the trench and when it comes back out of the volcano. But I think there's maybe a couple of things we can do that are a little easier.
Okay. I'm glad you're working on the easier ones. Can you pop over to your piano and maybe offer something?
Yeah, absolutely. And before I do, though, I just have to open with a quote. I've been thinking, I am really bothered these days about how angry everybody is on the left and right around climate. It's just sheer anger, and nothing is more totemic to this than people attacking Mary Nichols, who's a contender for the EPA administrator job. And Mary is a freedom rider. She dedicated her life's work to reducing emissions. She's implemented the most successful climate management program of anybody. And people are attacking her as somehow not pure enough or not whatever enough. Like, it just drives me nuts. And so I've been thinking about Yoda a lot these weeks, because Yoda knows how to cut through this stuff. And he has got one of the quotes: "Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering." And if we're going to really tackle climate, we're just going to have to be more generous with each other.
Oops. You just got muted somehow. He must have hit a button. He's walking over to the piano, perhaps. While you're walking over there, maybe Tom.
I'm sorry.
You were mute.
Yeah, I was muted because I accidentally unplugged my mic instead of my
power.
Okay.
The cord there. Hold on just a second. Anyways, this is a long way of introduction here, but this is all of a point. I wanted to introduce you and talk to you guys about Johannes Brahms, because at the end of last time I played with you, Andy, I played Bach and I kind of fumbled through it, and you just said at the end of it, it doesn't matter, my blood pressure dropped listening to that. And I thought we need more blood pressure drops. So I'm choosing Brahms today. I'm doing like 90 seconds of one of his pieces. He wrote this late in his life. It's a really personal, intimate piece of music. It's one of his intermezzi. And I'll play that for y'all now. Let's make sure that we get the correct mic here. now that we're... Yep, all right. It's got the Yeti Nano going, and I got to just drop off for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. While you're setting up, maybe let's see. Unless he's actually...
Can I ask you about something, Andy?
You may. Nice. It worked. I'm chilling. I'm not doom scrolling.
Yeah, exactly. It's not doom scrolling. It's the opposite of doom scrolling.
No, I know. Dar, you had a question.
Oh, first of all, that was beautiful, Julio.
Oh, thank you.
I was just wondering if you had gone through Drawdown yet, Paul Hawkins' book, and
mixed feelings about that. Yeah. So and I won't say everything that I know or think about it, but the people in the book conflate avoided emissions, reduced emissions, and removed emissions, and they think about them as the same thing. And so, as enthusiastic, for example, as I am about their number 6 option, which is education of girls, like education of girls is a hugely valuable and important thing, doesn't lead to emissions reductions.
But it does lead to vulnerability reduction.
It does lead to vulnerability reduction. Yes, but the work is drawdown.
I know.
The work is not.
Anyway,
the only point here is like it doesn't deal with the fundamental issue of tons, and as a consequence, there's a raft of good suggestions there, but it's not a roadmap to action or things to do.
Well, briefly, and then we'll get back to the music. It is a roadmap to some things to do, and I think the engagement, if it comes with that, it can lead you to a deeper understanding of the other more monumental aspects of what we need to do to stabilize the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, which is different than reducing emissions. Absolutely. That to me feels good. This is it's the ultimate everything plus. This is the ultimate and plus problem. So I feel that in the full sense of a sustainability quest, having everyone have a role is important, as long as there is some acknowledgement of the scope of the challenge on CO2. And actually, Dan Ramey, who's coming on now at Resources for the Future, has done really good work showing just how freaking hard it is to actually have an energy transition. It's really hard. It's not a 10-year task. It's not a task you can do without vastly more basic inquiry in science. But at the same time, a menu of some of those steps is really important. The thing that I find
there's plenty of good ideas in there. I don't want to consider otherwise.
Yeah, and the thing that it doesn't include, and I've talked to the founders about it, is we need a rise up as well as a drawdown. And the rise up is building community resilience, because drawing down CO2 is the task of a century. And at the same time, the vulnerability doesn't go down unless you actually work on reducing vulnerability in communities right now.
We need to combine a construction agenda with a reduction agenda.
Oh, I like that. Chuck, what does that sound like?
Nice.
Is there something there? Construction agenda, reduction agenda?
I think we could do something with that. And it's funny because this conversation echoes many of the conversations that I hear all the time about not just what's necessary, but how to present, which is what my whole thing is about, which is communication. And I liken this, since we're all talking about music here, I liken what we just talked about and the greater conversation to music itself, and specifically, I'll say jazz. So you never start someone off listening to jazz music with Thelonious Monk. You just can't do it because they're like, what the hell is this? This is crazy and you're insane. This is not music. You start them off with smooth jazz. And so, a kid to me said, I was talking about jazz, and I just got back from California. I was shooting a TV show, and one of the kids that they assigned to be like my little body man, he was just, I was listening to jazz in my trailer every day. And he's just like, oh man, you like smooth jazz? And I went, hey, what that is, that's called jazz music, my friend. Okay? Jazz is a language, and smooth jazz is baby talk. All right? So just, I'm going to teach you, you're going to have to learn what this is if you're going to hang around me. And so I liken that to climate and climate action and individual responsibility as opposed to policy and corporate and carbon emissions, the reduction of emissions as opposed to the removal of carbon from the atmosphere. All these things, of course, being interrelated and all having a place in the conversation. The problem is you can't have all those conversations at once. And I think that that's where, we kind of fail as climate communicators, is we try to have all those conversations at once, and we shouldn't. We should let the smooth jazz people listen to smooth jazz, and the Thelonious Monk people listen to Thelonious Monk, and we should bring the smooth jazz people to Thelonious Monk at the same time. That should be our goal. And so, that's the way I look at it. But enough of me. So.
No, that is, I mean, the translation part is so important, but also the thing that I liked about the book, and I haven't finished it yet. I haven't actually gotten to the education of girls yet, although, probably, being a creative person, I see the connection between, literacy and literal drawdown, I think. But the translation part is important. At the same time, I feel like that book's so cool because somebody's going to be like Karen when she found the hammered dulcimer. They're going to say, that's my technology.
Exactly.
Title is the thing that I want. So I'm sending it to as many congressional staff members as I know so that they can tap their Congress people on the shoulders and say, this is the one for our state. Our state has a lot of wind. Our state has a lot of waves. Let's reduce the biomass, so people can sort of see what has their number on it and plunge in deeply, because I think every state's going to have a different portfolio, and that was what made me. I felt very excited by it.
Except I'm sorry, Dart. I hate to say this. No. I know that the authors of the book specifically stripped out stuff that worked well in red states.
Wow.
What?
So
why?
I cannot explain that. But from people who worked on the project, I am to understand that that's exactly the case. One of those, by the way, is the technology I like, which is carbon capture. Mm-hmm, with prejudice, they ripped it out of the book.
Oh, wow. Because I was going to say, the wind is kind of a purple state. But, okay, I got it. That's an example.
But same thing with nuclear, same thing with geothermal. They were just ripped out. I know.
Well, and that's, I focused on some very young innovators in the nuclear space. The transatomic power, that young woman from MIT who's got a doctorate there in physics, and she and another partner were working on a next generation nuclear design. And to me, they're just as much a part of the conversation for sure as anyone working in renewable energy or anywhere else.
Yeah, although they're more like Mingus.
More like,
Mingus.
Mingus. Yeah, I know. I guess that's true.
Exactly.
a little bit.
They're more like
Andy. I gotta jump off. It's Sunday, Chuck. So it is Belgian waffles day, and that's that is Dad's responsibility, and I'm being looked at like
cooking.
You're great, Chuck.
This was fantastic, guys. It's such a pleasure to be with you on a Sunday morning. Thanks so much.
Back anytime. And this all goes out to the AGU, the American Geophysical Union, of which there are a couple of members here, and they're halfway or 2/3 of the way through their big giant online meeting, which is such
Yeah.
a strain. And they used to have a cafe at all their meetings, and I'm trying to make this a bit of that. So thank you, Chuck, for being here, man.
Such a pleasure, guys. Take care.
You be well. And we have Andy Chaikin in now, who's the ultimate historian of the space race, who happened to be a classmate of mine at Brown way back, and who's also a songwriter and a guitar player. And it's great to have you here. And also Dan Ramey, as I said, from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Dan is an energy and technology analyst at Resources for the Future, one of the age-old voices on charting sustainable paths for our species. Thanks for being here, Dan.
Great to be with you, everybody.
I'd like to circle back to Tom because you were the technically coming on a little while ago, and I'd love to hear a tune from you, Tom Chapin.
Well, the tune that comes to mind, and maybe you suggested it, is the one called Uncle Wally's Tale.
Ah, yes.
My brother-in-law, Bonnie, my wife Bonnie's older brother, was Dr. Wallace Broker. And the reason we live in Piermont, New York, is because Wally's wife, we were looking for a house upstate moving from Brooklyn, and Wally's wife brought Bonnie up to Piermont, and she had a friend who was. And anyway, we ended up here, and Wally, of course, is for us, is Uncle Wally. Was Uncle Wally, but for the geochemist world, it's a whole other thing. Yeah. And he, and about, I don't know, this is a historic document. About 20 years ago, the New York Times had an article about him, and they kind of put together some of his ideas at that point. And so I made it into a song, and I sang it for him, and he corrected me on some things. And a couple of years later, he said, well, the technology has changed, but I wasn't about to change the song. So figure this is a little song from It's Time, by gosh, by golly, for a tale told by Uncle Wally. It's a tale that he told me, a tale that you and I should know. In the Atlantic is a current, a conveyor belt type current that flows north and south. It gives out heat, more heat than the summer sun. And mightier this current than 100 Amazon rivers. And the heat that it delivers makes Western Europe run. The equator heats the water, which flows north to warm up Europe. That cools the current, so it sinks, heads south, and starts again. And if not for this heat conveyor, all Europe would be icebound, and Paris would be Moscow, perched on the frozen Seine. Uncle Wally says to look out for the climate, for the climate could be changing very soon. Uncle Wally says to look out for the climate. This is Uncle Wally's climate tune. As we humans heat the earth up, we don't know what might happen. This current could decide to stop in just 10 years or so. And though it all seems crazy, Europe plunging in an ice age, Uncle Wally says it happened here 12,000 years ago. For when the world heats up, the Atlantic heats up too. Some of the ice cap melts, and in a blink, less salt in the water means the water won't sink. What you gonna do when the water won't sink and that conveyor belt is through? Uncle Wally says to look out for the climate, and the fossil fuels that burn out of control. If we don't face up to our sins of emissions, we may see the common market catch a cold. Now logic seems to whisper, while money seems to shout. And the only place big business walks is on the bottom line. So we don't hear Uncle Wally's tale when we're voting on pollution. And I suggest we might invest in Gore-Tex at this time. Uncle Wally says to look out for the climate, 'cause our politicians live in a cocoon. It's you and I speaking for the climate, for the climate could be changing very soon. This is Uncle Wally's Climate Tune. This is Uncle Wally Broker's Tune.
Yeah, I knew him over at least 20, 25 years, and he was so interesting to talk to. And he also had an open mind. He wasn't afraid to tell me that his initial conception of the angry beast of climate was flawed. He realized it was a creature, it was a monster, a beast of the colder climates, meaning the ice sheets that we know now can't generate those vast splashes of cold water into the Atlantic coming from the melting that can disrupt things quite as much as they did. So he was an open learner. He was like,
yeah,
some of us get locked in, we just locked in. You're the famous person for X, and you keep on X no matter what happens in the actual world of science. And he was not like that, which was really cool.
Well, he loved the song, although he, as he said, it's not quite true anymore, but he liked the fact that I made him a folk hero.
It's so informative. It's really, you make science rhyme. You always do, Tom. Beautiful.
Can I quote you? He makes science rhyme.
Yeah, I can have that on your next album.
Yes, thanks, Dar.
And speaking of Dar, I'd love it if you could throw in a song.
I'm going to throw in this one, which is, I play this all the time, especially right now.
Oh, I think I know what it is.
Yeah, everybody's proving my point. Go for it.
It doesn't have to do with pagans, does it?
Yeah, it sure does. You know why? Because the scientists here today are completely proving the point that scientists would make, are basically the ultimate pagans, because they wonder, this is a whole program about sort of this cross section. You'd say science and arts, but it's really science and wonder. It's like, how can you not be a pagan after hearing about the music of the spheres, or or that, just even that spirit of inquiry, I think is so pagan to me. Right. So and we were talking about collaboration, and I go out on the road, and I'm sure Tom has seen this, and Andy, I think maybe we've all seen this. There's a lot more collaboration going on in every state than our headlines give us credit for. And I get to meet all of those people. And I actually, I have a song called This Was Pompeii, and I was talking about the lava from Mount St. Helens or something. And the people from UC Davis came up to me afterwards, like, this is my audience. They're like, all right, we're just going to tell you this. It's kind of an embarrassing mistake that you made. You're really not talking about lava. You're talking about pyroclastic ash. I just cracked up. I was like, this is my audience. So I had a beautiful Maori symbol, and somebody thought it was a tapeworm. I was like, no, because it's such a cool tapeworm. Like, no, thank you. Next necklace. All right, so here we go.
Christine Lab and eat your heart out.
Exactly. So this, I want to dedicate this to all of the wonderful collaborators, thinkers, and wanderers out there, and love to all of you. Here we go. Amber called her uncle, said we're up here for the holiday. Jane and I were having solstice, now we need a place to stay. And her Christ-loving uncle watched his wife hang Mary on a tree. He watched his son hang candy canes, all made with red dye number 3. He told his niece it's Christmas Eve, I know our life is not your style. She said Christmas is like solstice, and we miss you, and it's been a while. So the Christians and the pagans sat together at the table, finding faith and common ground the best that they were able. table. Just before the meal was served, hands were held and prayers were said, sending hope for peace on earth to all their gods and goddesses. The food was great, the tree plugged in, the meal had gone without a hitch, till Timmy turned to Amber and said, "Is it true that you're a witch?" His mom jumped up and said, "The pies are burning," and she hit the kitchen, and it was Jane who spoke. She said, "It's true, your cousin's not a Christian, but we love trees, we love the snow, the friends we have, the world we share, and you find magic from your God, and we find magic everywhere." So the Christians and the pagans sat together at the table, finding faith and common ground the best that they were able. And where does magic come from? I think magic's in the learning, 'cause now when Christians sit with pagans, only pumpkin pies are burning. When Amber tried to do the dishes, her aunt said, "Really, no, don't bother." Amber's uncle saw how Amber looked like Tim and like her father. He thought about his brother, how they hadn't spoken in a year. He thought he'd call him up and say, "It's Christmas and your daughter's here." He thought of father, sons, and brothers, saw his own son tuck his sleeve, saying, "Can I be a pagan?" Dad said, "We'll discuss it when they leave." So the Christians and the pagans sat together at the table, finding faith and common ground the best that they were able, lighting trees in darkness, learning new ways from the old, and making sense of history and drawing warmth out of the cold.
I just love it.
Thank you.
You know, I started the Monday shows that I do on this webcast. I call them, they're about thriving online. And I've started a sub-series there on difficult conversations, like how to hold a difficult conversation. And the first one was on race, involving a great songwriter who's on this show sometimes, Reggie Harris, getting comfortable talking to the white members of his family. Going back, they diverged in the 1800s from a slave owner. Reggie's black. His great-great-great-grandmother was obviously a slave who was raped by Wickham, whose statue was toppled in Richmond, Virginia, and he's found a way. He and his white side of his family are communicating with each other. It was a long, hard, difficult conversation. And Christians and pagans, we can all have fun and have eggnog and find a way
there
to.
are ways in. There are inroads.
There are
Mostly
inroads.
food. Yeah.
Mostly food and drink. Yeah. And music. I think music too, for sure. Dara, it's a great song.
Thank you.
So Dan Ramey in Ann Arbor, you've been on here 3 or 4 times, and every time you have just such a great style, both on guitar and voice. How are you doing, first of all, and do you have a tune in mind?
Thanks, Andy. First of all, Dara, that was amazing, and I've admired your music for a long time. Partly because I went to Wesleyan, where I know.
Go West.
So,
when were you there?
go
Sorry.
West. I graduated in.
Did you know Lily Chapin? She was there too.
So I don't.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
My daughter Lily.
Oh, Lily Chapin. Is that? I think I dated one of her friends.
Not her.
The circle is unbroken.
Not her. That's pretty. I think she was friends with
Jesse Mandel. I'll write down. Ask her.
Mandel. I think.
Yeah. I'm still dealing with the fact that Dan dated.
Oh, he's got a kid now, man.
Ouch, Julio. Yeah, and I have 9 minutes until I'm supposed to go back on kid. So I'll chop to it. So I'm going to try to pull together a couple threads. For me, Thelonious Monk would not be the most aggressive way to start one's jazz career. You might go with Cecil Taylor or Anthony Braxton, who I studied with at Wesleyan, a little more aggressive than Monk. So I'm going to play a little Monk and then a little Mingus, and I'm going to move that into a Christmas song by Nick Lowe, one of my favorite songwriters. This is Fables of Faubus, if you don't know it.
Daniel.
And we'll do Monk.
Move back a little bit so I can see your hands.
There we go.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
great. Thank you.
Named after the infamous Orville Faubus of governor of Alabama, who had a limp, which is why the song has a real limp to it, if you ever listen to it. And then here's the Monk. Outside the taxi window, on the way to catch my flight, I noticed snowflakes playing in the ever-fading light. When he stopped me at departures, it was really coming down. Well, deep and crisp and even, it settled on the ground. It looks like Christmas, Christmas at the airport. All the planes are grounded, and the fog is rolling in. It looks like Christmas, Christmas at the airport this year. Well, doors are locked and bolted. Let the festivities begin. The terminal was seething without much Christmas cheer. So I found an empty closet and settled down in there. When I awoke much later, I was quite alone. Well, check-in was deserted, everyone had gone. It looks like Christmas, Christmas at the airport. Well, I took a set of x-rays, and they came out rather well. It looks like Christmas, Christmas at the airport this year. I'm doing Santa's sleigh ride on the baggage carousel. It looks like Christmas, Christmas at the airport. Well, I should be at the table with all my kith and kin. It looks like Christmas, Christmas at the airport this year. Don't save me any turkey, I found a burger in a bin.
That's amazing. Every note, all that stuff.
Summer.
Great.
Tom, I got to say, I don't even bother looking at the chords because I know I'll never go there. I can't do that stuff. But what great playing and singing. And Nick Lowe, you did a couple of other songs of his, and great songwriter.
I love Nick Lowe, and for those of you who like holiday music, I know it's not everybody's jam, but he's got this holiday album called Quality Street, which is mostly original holiday music. It's just so great, so clever.
So I got to again introduce Andy Chaikin, who's up in Vermont, girding. I'm not sure if you guys are going to get this snow that's coming this week, but how? Tom,
Yeah, we keep.
Tom's got to go. Just
It's
say,
disappointing. I mean,
Tom Chapin, it looks like you were saying farewell. You're muted, but let's see. Can you unmute, Tom? Did I mute you? No. Tom, you're muted still.
I was thinking that what Dar mentioned about the pagans and the Christians. There's a song that John Forster and I wrote that I next time I come on, I want to sing for you. The Good Book and the Big Bang.
We have to do that one.
In the beginning was the Word, then the Word turned into data, but the data and the scriptures disagreed. So the battle lines were drawn and the battle rages on between two very different kinds of creed. Science gropes with isotopes and spectroscopes by which it hopes to explain the Big Bang to the people. But it collapses in apses, which perhaps is why you see a laboratory with a steeple. You never see a laboratory with a steeple. I don't know. Next time I'm on, I'll learn it again and play it.
You're also quickly reminding me of Pete Seeger, who I sat in his kitchen once, and he was telling me that old story about his father used to have people over for dinner, including scientists, and he had this joke always waiting in his pocket when he had a scientist over. This is Pete Seeger's dad, and he would say, "You say that an infinite increase in information is a good thing, but can you prove it?" So it is a creed to some extent. I guess we're seeing that right now. You know, science and technology lead us so far, so fast, and ultimately it can be a good thing, but it can also take us back sometimes.
It's great fun being part of this, guys. Thanks so much, and
thank you for being here.
Great to
we'll
see you
again soon. All good luck in the future. This is an interesting transition, which the longest transition ever from.
Unbelievable.
Bye,
it's
guys.
We love you.
You are and your group. Bye.
Great to see you.
Bye.
I'm going to chime in and say bye as well, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. I'll be listening.
Enjoy that child. Yeah, that was great. That was great.
Bye,
take care of yourself. And I think Nathan Farrell, who's an undergrad, he's a senior at Columbia. He's going to be coming on shortly. I see him popping into the green room. And Gui Becker, who's a biologist down at the University of Alabama, has a song he's going to play here in a little bit. But Andy, I'd love to hear some of your musical side again here. It's great to have you back.
Great to be back. Things have been happening in the space world. So
a lot of things.
Yeah, I ducked out for a little while and God, it's just been incredible. But, I just want to just throw in, for what it's worth, a thought about science versus spirituality. And I guess I've always felt like it was an artificial divide. To me, having grown up in love with the sky, having grown up in love with other worlds, that's what, got me into where I'm at with space, was picture books about going to other planets before anybody had been hardly into space. And I don't know. I mean, as a child, of course, I didn't really identify spirituality as such, but I think as I got older, I just recognized that they coexisted and that they fed each other, and that, to me, it's a wonderfully spiritual experience to explore and make discoveries, as well as an intellectual adventure. So, I get frustrated when I see us. I mean, we as a culture, I really don't know how we're going to get back to building bridges instead of walls. I really hope we can, but I really don't want to see us build walls between science and spirituality if we can avoid it.
I agree. Some really great scientists have made this point over and over again. So
yeah. By the way, I was once interviewing an astronomer who worked on the Hubble Space Telescope, a famous astronomer named John Bacall, and he said that he liked to keep in his. I was talking to him about science and spirituality. And he said that, here he is working on the Hubble telescope, which is going to see galaxies that are at the edge of the known universe. At least at that time, that was the technology. And he said he had a saying from the Talmud in his desk drawer that said, "If you want to tell lies, you should tell them about things that are far away." I thought was a great,
Yeah.
kind of humorous / sobering reminder to those of us who think we can figure out the universe.
You're reminding me of this visual that was posted the other day. It was the European Space Agency has done a forecast of the next 6 million years of star motion or something. It's just amazing. Whoops. Let me go back to the beginning. There.
Well, I don't know if my musical offering today is in the spirit of today's show, but I'm still working my way through songs that I've actually finished, and you guys unfortunately have been my guinea pigs. So I'm going to play a song that I wrote way back in the early 90s, Dar, back when you were playing the coffee houses in Boston, where I was living at the time, and tried my hand at that a couple of times myself, but didn't have the drive and the passion and the stick-to-itiveness that you did. But anyway, this is a song that was inspired by a group called Squeeze that I was just, really into at that time. And it's called House of Love. So does this sound okay mix-wise, vocal versus guitar? I've had some issues. I have a USB mic on order, which will hopefully solve some of these things. But anyway. Well, I'm ready to build a house of love with you, where we make the walls out of kisses and sighs, make the roof from the way you look into my eyes. And I'm ready to live in a house of love with you. I've been looking around for a place to be, and suddenly it's so clear to me that bricks and stone and wood would never do. So I'm ready to live in a house of love with you, where the sun will shine in the pictures we took on every page in our memory book. When we're living in a house of love, oh, we're living in a house of love. Oh, a house of love is all that I've been dreaming of. We'll put an end to my time alone. Help me, darling, make this house a home. So I'm ready to live in a house of love with you, where the sun will shine in the pictures we took on every page in our memory book. When we're living in a house of love, oh, we're living in a house of love. Yeah, we're living in a house of love.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. It's like Squeeze, but it's warmer.
Thank you.
Which is lovely. It's like,
Warm
but they might
squeeze.
want to.
Thanks, Alex. That's encouraging.
That's all we need in this world, a warm squeeze.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but really,
That's
I mean,
pretty
it's
cool.
just their songs were so amazing and are so amazing, but there's that extra layer of warmth that might have emanated from those coffee houses in Boston. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Nathan Farrell will be coming on in a minute too, and I can't resist because it's AGU week, throwing in liberated carbon, which is what Julio Friedman is working on, unliberating all the carbon we've liberated.
Oh,
yes,
thank you,
that's
Julio.
the opposite of liberating carbon is what I do. I wrangle it.
His Twitter handle is Carbon Wrangler. It took 1,000 generations for our species to rise, but gathering and hunting is no way to get by. We yearn to burn more than dung and sticks. And someone came along and said, hey, try lighting this. He opened up the ground and showed us coal and oil. said, come liberate some carbon, it'll make your blood boil. Liberated carbon, it'll spin your wheels. Liberated carbon, it'll nuke your meals. Liberated carbon, it'll turn your night to day. Hey, hey, come on and liberate some carbon, baby, it's the American way. I got peat swamp fossils running my TV. BP's black label burns in my SUV. We can light up the planet like a Christmas tree. They say that things are getting hot, but hey, we've got AC, that adaptation. Liberated carbon, it'll spin your wheels. Liberated carbon, it'll nuke your meals. Liberated carbon, it'll turn your night to day. Hey, hey, come on and liberate some carbon, baby, it's the human way. Pump some those electrons and that gasoline. No sweat or hurry, just turn on the machine. Whoa. My microphone's falling down. We sent an army to the desert to keep this country free. Hey, hey, and to liberate some carbon, baby, for you and me. Liberated carbon, it'll spin your wheels. Liberated carbon, it'll nuke your meals. Liberated carbon, it'll turn your night to day. Hey, hey, come on and liberate some carbon, baby. Liberate some carbon, baby. Liberate some carbon, baby. It's the human way. At least for now. Not too much longer, okay? There you go. Oh, Lord.
Excellent, Andy. Excellent.
Yeah.
I remember we were driving down to Ursinus in the university. We were going to go play together, and all I wanted to talk about was climate change, and all you want to talk about was music. I was like, music. But you told me that you built your own guitar, and I put that in a song. So it was good that you talked about music. But I was like, it's 2005. I have a really good feeling. I think that things are going to really be like turned around by say 2020. Like we're really going to figure this one out. And you're like, I don't see people really digging in. I was like, oh, they're digging in.
That gets me back to my posse of people like Julio and Dan. It's a long, hard slog, and it's the hardest problem ever. 2003, there was this great Nobel Prize winning chemist at Rice University, Richard Smalley. He stood up at Columbia and gave this unbelievable lecture about the energy challenge. He said he methodically listed all the challenges of humanity, from education to poverty alleviation to health to water, and energy was the one thing. If you had more energy that's clean and not extracted in a way that's ruining lives, that enables all those other things. And he gave this great lecture, and he said, we got to get into this, and we're not adequately invested. And like 3 years later, I wrote this page one story for the Times, declining research in the age of global warming, energy research, because we were like, we've been asleep at the wheel on this being a frontier. It's
well, the part of the issue here, and this is just getting back to the idea of being creative and reframing your brain. We grew up, all of us, in a world of energy scarcity. We were running out of oil. We were running out of gas. There were only a couple of places in the world where energy came from. Like now we are in a world of energy abundance. There is low cost, clean energy all over the place. So now the question is, can we tie our shoes? Which is a very different question than can we make it work? Now that we can make it work, it's actually harder because the technology gap is an easier gap to bridge than the rest of the sort of institutional gaps we have. But
you mean changing a system, in other words?
Well, and just as one example of this, nations are pretty bad setups for this. Mm-hmm. Like we've gone pretty far with nations, but they're not really well configured for this challenge. So we're not going to get rid of them. So how can we reimagine the problem in a way that serves nations as well as serving people, as well as serving ecosystems. Like, we have to get into that. And frankly, between you and me, there is no more fecund place to have these conversations than a Boston coffee shop. So I am all in favor of that.
Yep,
Yeah.
a Boston coffee house. Also, you never a coffee shop, because you never know who's listening. I mean, you're talking about it, and like the person at the next table can add their thing. You know, the strength of weak ties, and the whatever comes out of caffeine. I mean, I hear you in all directions.
But you got to be generous about that. You know, when people come in, and for what it's worth, Benjamin Franklin got to be who he was from London coffee shops. There's a whole, I gotta do this. I'm sorry, 90 seconds, really short. Benjamin Franklin was bamboozled into heading to London in order to, he thought that the governor of Pennsylvania was going to write him a ticket to pick up a printing press and bring it back to the United States before it was back to the colonies. And he got to London and found out the governor of Pennsylvania had lied to him and just abandoned him in London. He was alone. And so he began to work at print shops, but he discovered coffee shops while he was there. And a lot of his intellect and his learning and his ideas and stuff came out of coffee shops in London, the very first coffee shops. And there's a lot more that we can do with that.
So I guess if I can jump in with a question for the group, which is, in the space world, the stuff that Elon Musk has done with reusable rockets, and some of you may have watched this absolutely wild test of a thing called the Starship a few days ago. That's just another aspect of his disruptive approach to space flight. So my question is, how close are we to alternative energy, renewable energy, getting such a strong foothold in the economy that the failings of our society, of our culture as a political entity can't stop it? Are we close to that tipping point economically?
No, we're not.
Although I will say,
go ahead, Andy.
No, I just want to show something. Keep talking.
The key issue here is this problem is exactly the opposite of space. Exactly the opposite. In space, you have one customer who's the government, and one technology, which is rockets. And there's variations on that, but that's it. Energy is heavily regulated, global market on price. It's the completely opposite perspective. I don't want to be a nabob. The remarkable drop we've seen in the cost of renewables is awesome, and it will allow renewables to penetrate the market a whole lot more, and that will help. You need every part to build a motorcycle. You can't just build a motorcycle out of carburetors or tires. You need every part. But what we have to do is actually drive a change globally through the economy that is not economically based.
Yeah,
it's a really, really hard thing.
There's one comment that comes to mind that's directly related to the space shots. Nate Lewis, who is a Caltech scientist long in the renewable energy space, so to speak. Back in 2007, I quoted him repeatedly. He said, and I'll explain the graph you're looking at. He said, "This is not like flying to the moon. It's like flying to the moon when Southwest Airlines is already flying there, handing out peanuts. In other words, we're in a system that's providing us with a lot of energy. It just, it's got some of these externalities, but we don't really think about them because they're mostly in the future or somewhere else. And it's like you plug stuff into the wall. You're not thinking about it. So I think that's Andy. I think you're getting at that question. When does it become so organic that it's just the thing that we're doing? It's monumentally hard, but
when it becomes advantageous.
Yeah, but look at Iowa right here. I'm showing you a graph. This was in the New York Times recently. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago on here, and shows you that while Iowa was voting twice for Trump, they were voting for wind economically. And they're completely getting off coal. And look at that, wind is going zoom. That's not solving the climate problem, because this is a tiny little part of, this is just electricity, for example. It's not driving and heating and cooling. So it's still a monumental task. But this does show you that
Yeah.
Things can start to line up in different ways.
Yeah.
The mosaic tiles count. I mean, the mosaic tiles end up influencing other mosaic tiles. And, state legislatures sometimes do things in exile of the federal government in a more agile way. And mayors, somebody said, let's just get rid of countries and just have a bunch of mayors, because mayors are accountable.
I think John Lennon said that too, right?
Julio, did you do this because that's a bad idea or that's an okay idea?
I've met a lot of mayors. Like there's like some mayors are awesome, not all mayors.
Yeah, but when they're great, they're really great. They're creative thinkers, and they are and they're accountable and they're pragmatic. And yet they're so they're kind of folksy, but they can do stuff. They can plug stuff in. If the demand is, if the conversation is there, and then other people, and so much technology, like people here in town, Andy, who did geothermal. I was like, you should have had us all come and watch you do it to see that it's so easy. You just stick a thing in the ground. Somebody's got to do it first, or else you don't trust it. So, and we have our solar panels, and
but
I have to. Let me just. I got to introduce.
Please.
Nathan Farrell has joined us, who's a senior at Columbia, majoring. You're getting a degree in sustainable development, right? The undergraduate degree. So when you're hearing all this yammer by all of us older folks, what comes to mind for you?
This is a great conversation. I think it's actually really interesting that we're talking about this because one of my final projects for a class that I'm taking, it's like a sustainable finance class. It's like the thesis is whether is what's more effective, federal regulations or kind of ESG, CSR kind of projects and mitigating the climate crisis and whatnot. But I don't know, sort of where we kind of arrive that it's neither necessarily, because I think there are a lot of inefficiencies that come from both, market solutions versus, relying on the federal government to make these advancements. So, I mean, when you're talking about sort of decentralizing everything and having a bunch of mayors, I really resonate with that. I think that's cool, but what do I know? But yeah.
So for just two quick thoughts on that. One of them is to your point, Nathan. We got to be humble about how hard this is and how many tools we need. It's straight up hard, and we're going to need federal, and we're going to need state, and we're going to need international, and we're going to need local. We're going to need all of it, and we're going to need carrots, and we're going to need sticks, regulation and new technology and incentives and market aligning policies, and we're going to need huge companies to step up and build things that we don't have, and we're going to need lots of little companies trying stuff that we've never thought of, and we need all of that stuff, and I don't see a way out without it. But I've met the mayor of Chongqing, China, which is a city with 32 million people, which is the population of California. And then you might remember his name, Bo Xilai, who is sometimes called Bullshit Liar, who basically tried to take over the Chinese government, and his wife was executed. So it's wow. That's one kind of mayor. And there's the Eric Garcettis out there, and there's also the Rudy Giuliani's out there. So I'd be a little careful about the wish for mayors.
Giuliani, people disappeared and we really don't know where they went. That there are a lot of poor people who went away and we're not quite sure what happened to them. Yeah, okay.
But the other thing, to your thing, Dar, we got to celebrate the wins we have. I'm hugely enthusiastic about it. Iowa's one example. There's many more. And the ambition that groups like the European Union or the state of California, or recently Justin Trudeau with his $170 proposed carbon tax, that's the right kind of ambition. The flip side of that is that right now, the largest emitter in the United States is industry. Transportation is no longer the largest. Power is third. You can zero out power in the United States, you only get rid of 20% of emissions.
Right.
Wow.
So, and 1/3 of my emissions are something that I control. 2/3 of the emissions are the state I live in. Completely outside of what I can do. It's the roads I drive on and the steel that's built for buildings in my jurisdiction and the economy that I don't see. And we don't go to the store and buy 100,000 tons of steel. And so we don't know and think about that stuff, but it's there. And
right.
And 54% of steel is made in China. And last time I checked, China exists and I don't control it. So we just need a whole bunch of answers that we don't have. I'm going to stop talking in 5 seconds, I promise. I spend a lot of my time working in the stuff that other people don't work in. I work in heavy industry and petrochemicals and CO2 removal and hydrogen and I work on stuff like government procurement as opposed and clean portfolio standards and stuff like that, because it's white space and we need it someday. So I figure if I'm wrong early on, then someone will come fix me and at least we'll make some progress.
Fantastic. That is a wonderful, that is, you're front loading something very important. And I will say, because I could talk about this stuff forever, as Andy knows, and he's like, Dar, what, you don't know that much. So this is, but if anyone wants to start a Boston coffee house online to talk about this stuff, just like morning coffee, and I'll be a translator like Chuck.
But we're here. We're
not a funny one.
This is kind of it. We can just do a morning version.
We don't have to pull everybody in with us. I feel bad. People are probably like, we like the music part.
But, I know, exactly. And I'm afraid I have to jump. So that'll give you less talk and more music. So nice to meet you, Nathan. Yep. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Andy.
Dar, take care. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Dar, it's great to see you again. Thank you. And hey, Nathan. So that was quite a little dose of data and thoughts. And I see Gui Becker is in the studio too. Gui from the University of Alabama.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Gui studies, runs a lab, the Becker Lab, easy to find online, that studies sort of tropical ecology and the impact of disease and all those questions that are also on our minds these days, as disease of the humankind and the non-human kind has been running around the world making ruckus. I wrote a lot about amphibian declines, and it's been horrific to think about these species blinking out, genera pretty much in Central America. So it's good that you're doing that work, and you're also doing great work as a songwriter. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good to see you all.
And Andy Chaikin, again, from historian of the Apollo program. Nathan Farrell, senior from Columbia University's Earth Institute, soon to have a climate school, which is pretty cool. Maybe you can come back as a graduate student. I don't know where you're planning next, but so Nathan, did you have a song in mind?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I can take it away. Yeah, I was just gonna play a little jazz standard that I've been working on. Yeah, I'm a singer. I'm also like a wind player, saxophone player. So I'm trying to pick up more accompanying instruments because got to do that. I'm ukulele now, but I'll work my way up to the guitar for sure very soon.
Can you tip your camera down a tiny bit?
Yeah, no, yeah. Yes, I will do that.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, I guess I'll begin. Let's build a stairway to the stars, a lovely stairway to the stars, with love to guide us as we go drifting on. We'll hear the sound of violins way out yonder where the blue begins, with love to guide us as we go drifting along. Can't we sail away on a little daisy petal high on the rim of a hill? Can't we sail away on a little dream and satellite on the crest of a thrill? Keep building that stairway to the stars, that lovely stairway to the stars. The moon will guide us as we go drifting along. Can't we sail away on a little daisy petal high on the rim of a hill? Can't we sail away on a little dream and satellite on the crest of a thrill? Keep building that stairway to the stars, that lovely stairway to the stars. Moon will guide us as we go drifting along.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So do you perform out much? You have your voice is really spectacular, really great voice.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I definitely used to before the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I definitely used to, just around different places in the city and at Columbia a bit. I'm actually doing a live stream performance at a jazz club in Philly, Chris's Jazz Cafe, and that's happening next Friday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Is
So
there an
that'll be
easy
the
way
first
for
thing in a while.
Is there an easy way for people to find your musical site online, or how do they find out about that one?
Yeah, I mean, I guess right now the best thing's probably Instagram.
Okay, what's your Instagram ID? Your Twitter? I mean, your Instagram
drop it in the
name.
chat.
Cool.
Does everyone see the chat? Is that how it works?
Yeah, or yeah, and then I can add it in the public comment thing.
Oh yeah,
Got
sure.
it.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
What a sweet tune too.
Thank you. Yeah, that's
I'm sorry, guys. I have to jump off
All right,
also,
Andy.
but that was lovely. That was lovely. Thank you for
Thanks
having
again
me
for being here, and I got to get you on the midweek one again. We had Ed Hoffman on talking about NASA's culture of knowledge building and performance.
Anytime.
Take care of yourself.
Anytime.
Be well. Be well. All right. So I'm just going to post that Instagram thing. Hold on one second. Yeah. So Instagram for Nathan Farrell is NFAR music. There we go. Check him out. And so Guy, and actually, hold on. My favorite ice sculptor is here, Carter Brooks.
Hey there.
Who is a philosopher, an artist, a musician as well, and he carves pieces that are like ticking watches that are made out of melting ice. I first met him when he came to a talk I gave in Berkeley, where he came with an ice cube, put it in a sculpted piece of ice, put it up in the back of the room. So while I was giving the lecture, I had this sense of time ticking away and melting away, and it's obviously highly relevant in a changing climate. Hey, Carter, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Good morning. It's been a great
Good.
show this morning. I'm really enjoying the conversations very much.
A little bit of everything: ukulele, melting ice, or accordion, you name it.
That and the climate conversation as well. Listening to Julian's comment. Julian, is that right? Fleischman? Or what's this?
Yeah.
What if I got his name wrong?
Oh, Julio Friedman. Yeah.
Julio. Sorry.
Yeah.
He echoes my own inner complaints, I think.
Yeah, I know.
Things that we have as
It just conveys this is a hard problem. It's like beyond just saying, yeah, let's all get together and hug each other. It's beyond just science. It's beyond just technology. It's this whole mix. You have to have the ethics and the values and the science and the community, the sense of crossing boundaries. So Guy, you have a new song out, I think.
Yes, I do. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first song I wrote this year back in May was about biodiversity loss and the pandemic. And then last week I released another single, and this one is about science denialism, climate change denial, COVID denial, etc. So we've been watching in horror how scientists have been treated recently. That's not only exclusively in the US. I mean, it's Latin America, places in Europe. So, and then this new song is about a scientist that is having recurring nightmares about the Inquisition, that the system is after scientists publishing and speaking out about the devastating impacts of climate change. So I'm not sure if you could, Andy, if you could play a cut of the song that I published on YouTube, because it's the whole band, but I'm happy also to play it live here and like an acoustic version, less loud,
Well, I would, if you're okay with playing the acoustic version, that'd be great. I do have the video here, so I could do that too.
Maybe if you can play just a short, cut from like a minute and 50 to like 30 seconds cut, that would be cool.
Do you mean starting from the beginning though?
No, I mean I mean, it's
Like
up to
a
me,
minute and
but-
50. I've got it here. I could just go to it. You said from a minute 50?
Yeah, that 30 seconds there would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, hold on.
And then I can play the whole song slowly.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Whoops, wrong. Too many tools in the toolkit here. Dun, dun, dun. Go to Chrome, hit share, sorcery science. Here we go. Maximize and play. Let's see if this works. Oh,
Denying climate change, the sea fuels the blaze. Don't let your books burn. War next to be your turn. Into the ashes of oblivion. The ashes of oblivion.
Yeah, I mean,
ha. Oh, I like it. I'm gonna play a little more.
It's 6 o'clock, it's 6 a.m. It's going around that same dream again. The Inquisition's here.
Wow. I wrote a story once for the New York Times in 1997 about Judas Priest, the heavy metal band.
Right.
It was right at the time when they got a new lead singer who was a kid from an Ohio tribute band. And that was the first time I really dug in on heavy metal, Queensryche,
yes,
Priest and everything. And that got made into a movie called Rockstar in 2001. And I met a bunch of the musicians who played that too. So I'm fine with that sound. That was pretty great. I like it.
Yeah.
So take us back to the stripped down version.
Yes, that's right. So it's called Sorcery Science. And it goes like, I have a click track here because I tend to run when I get excited and play, so I'm just looking at the clicks. Otherwise I'm going to run too fast. All right. It's 6 o'clock, it's 6 a.m. I sit up in bed, that same dream again. That same dream where Galileo whispers in my ear, hide your notes, the Inquisition's back. The end is near. It's been a witch hunt since the Middle Ages. Pyres piled high with born and sages. Oh, 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 from microscales to cosmic trails, chasing the light, fighting forward to break through. The Inquisition's after you. Whoa, it's been a witch hunt since the Middle Ages. Pyres piled high with born and sages. Science, logic, philosophy, all seen as sorcery. Chaotic rage, denying climate change. Lunacy fuels the blaze. Don't let your books burn, or next to be your turn into the ashes of oblivion. Into the ashes of oblivion.
o'clock, it's 6 a.m., it's Galileo, that same dream again. The Inquisition's here. Whoa, the Inquisition's back, my friend. Wake up, the fight is here. Thank you.
Really great. So when will you have this out as an album? I know the concept of an album is losing its meaning anyway. You're commercially released, or
No, I'm not. I just, worked with my cousin. He played the bass and the drums, and I recorded everything at home. And, we released this song on YouTube and, Spotify and in the other, main outlets. Yes. So it's been we've been having a lot of fun, and with the other song, I spent more time and ended up, producing a video clip, like a little music video. Right. So that was pretty good. So yeah.
Well, I'll push it around as much as I can. I think
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Great. Yeah.
So Carter, we were talking about the complexity of how this sits in the brain and the heart. This stuff, it's the sustainability quest, and everything all that 5 or 10 minute jam we had earlier on carbon and innovation comes in the context of a pandemic and a world that's so focused on just getting back to quote unquote normal, which adds another layer of tension to putting climate in the foreground. And again, for Nathan's generation and the even younger generations coming forward, they're grappling with seeing everything fall to shit all around them in terms of career tracks. And where do we go from here?
They've been trained that this is all going to be easy. Young people, I think, have been sold the climate, do your 10, 20 thing, 50 things stuff that makes it seem like it's all just really easy and it's just a matter of will. And the fact that it's complex and that actually what it takes is, letting go of a lot of things. I think the pandemic the fact that the globe, everybody on the globe, more or less, is having to experience that life as they understood it had to stop for a while. And we all have that experience of like, it could be different. The after effects of that, could be very positive, right? That we're all more flexible in our thinking and we all understand that everything doesn't have to continue as it is and the rest. So I think it's a mixed bag for sure.
Yeah. So Nathan, again, back to you in terms of where are you? What do you think you're going to be heading toward when you graduate?
That's a great question. Something I'm still figuring out for sure. I don't know. I really like the idea of sustainable comms. I think that's something that I've been exploring a lot more recently. But I definitely also really like making art and music. That's specifically is probably going to be really hard in the coming months. But definitely just on the lookout.
Well, I do know that
if
cool. Nothing else, music can keep you sane when it comes to dealing with the other stuff. At least I've found that to be the case.
Yeah, that's been the case for me for sure.
And definitely. It also crosses boundaries. I've got friends, getting to Carter's point, I have friends who are stridently anti-nuclear, and I'm not. I've had bandmates who are stridently anti-natural gas, meaning it has to stop now, like end it all now. And I'm not, because I don't know, I'm a realist, right? You can't just turn off gas in the context of American energy politics and realities. And so, but we find ways to play together, and then we find ways to kind of convene together, and we find ways to kind of find those little points of common ground. And that can lead to progress too, I think, shaving off the rough edges.
You're also reminding me, this came up, I think, earlier in the conversation, where, we have so much energy now. Like, I used to say, access to infinite clean energy might not be a good thing for the planet. To have civilization and have too much energy available to it.
Yeah. Even if it's clean. No, I wrote a piece for .earth.
That doesn't solve the problem of having too much energy and then scaling up civilization, which is sort of what we've done.
I wrote a piece at least 10 years ago on .earth, my New York Times blog. I literally woke up, I had a dream. What if we had the perfect energy source? What would that mean for the world? And of course, it means you could drive anywhere, you can do it, you can pave over everything, then that takes me back to that wider landscape of, responsibility and ethics about nature and room for non-human life and even aesthetics. It's like boundless energy does not make us a perfect species.
Not solve the problem. I mean, which we aren't even really identifying. It's always been there's too much energy available.
Yeah. So Nathan, I didn't know if you had another song you could offer. We're coming to a close here, and I'd like to end with music, and that'd be great. But if not, I've got my guitar and my banjo and stuff. But whatever you got in mind, that'd be fun.
I think you can take it away, Andy.
Oh,
yeah, you've got it.
Oh, all right. Maybe I'll do this. Well, but it's kind of I'll do it anyway. Because this is for AGU, the American Geophysical Union. So I'll do. So very early on, I was learning. I was in love with British folk music as a teenager and in my 20s. Pentangle and Fairport Convention, and there was this song about Lord Franklin. I've been to the Arctic 4 times, and I didn't grow up liking the Arctic, right? I grew up liking the tropics. So this was a weird thing for me to discover the wonders of the Arctic and how beautiful it is and how magical it is. And the history is so interesting. So, in the 1850s, Lord Franklin went up there. He became famous. He went to the Arctic. He did the thing you don't want to do. He went to the Arctic 3 times and he only came back twice. Was homeward bound as we crossed the deep. Swinging in my hammock, I fell asleep. I dreamed a dream, and I thought it true, concerning Franklin and his gallant crew. With 100 seamen he sailed away, frozen ocean in the month of May, seeking a passage all around the poles. We poor seamen do sometimes go. Through cruel hardships we mainly strove, till our ship on mountains of ice was strung. Only the Eskimo in his skin canoe was the only one who ever came Baffin Bay, where the whalefish glow. The fate of Franklin, no man may know. The fate of Franklin, no tongue can tell. There doth Franklin his good crew, and the fishes dwell. May. By Lord Franklin I'd cross the main. 10,000 pounds I would freely give to go on earth that Franklin did. Thanks.
That's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, I wrote another verse to it, but about like adds a global warming element, but I couldn't remember the words, so I didn't bother sing those right now. Hey, it was great to have you all here today. Gui Becker,
Thank you.
University of Alabama, Nathan Farrell, down in where are you? Actually, I can't remember where you are, Nathan. Are you in New York City?
I'm in New Jersey.
And Carter Brooks in the Bay Area, California, with the ice cubes slowly melting. This has been the Sustain What enterprise that I run through the Columbia University Earth Institute. I'm really grateful to my colleagues there, especially Alex Halliday, the director, who's pretty much a visionary. He's helping to spur Columbia to create a school of climate, which we're working on to make that into a real thing this fall of 2021. It's going the master's degree in climate and society that already exists will be the first element of this climate school to come to fruition. And tomorrow I'm going to have, I was going to pull up the session info for tomorrow, but maybe I'll just skip that. Again, I'm Andy Revkin. Look at the scrolling bar there at the bottom to find ways to get in touch with me for ideas for future shows. Tomorrow, we're having a session on how to thrive offline in order to make your online experience more sustainable. Richard Louv, the writer, great writer of several books about the importance of getting kids outside. Paul Greenberg, who's written a book about turning off your phone, and Angelica Patterson, who's a botanist at Columbia, who is a big fan of the Black in Botany hashtag, and she's works at the Black Rock Forest and does a mix of online and offline activities for kids. So that's what's coming on Monday, and much more here on Sustain What. Thanks everybody for being here. Be well, stay safe, connect with people from a distance, or hug them if they're in your bubble. Take care.
Bye. Thanks, Andy.
Bye-bye.